I love hearing that music because it pumps me up. You know what that means? It means it's NFL time, baby. The regular season just a short time away, right around the corner. And, of course, it's incredible that I am saying this. It's amazing. I have to pinch myself. But we are going to have NFL football, the Raiders, in town less than a year from now. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. So the guy we have with us on the line right now, very happy to have him, does a great job for the Las Vegas Review-Journal. That would be Myles Simmons, Raiders reporter. He's out there in Seattle and going to help us preview tonight's final preseason game. Myles, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
No problem, guys. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So,
what's up, Myles?
So this is the last preseason game, and I would imagine if you talk to the staff, they'll tell you, hey, listen, we want to win every game we play, but this is it's nice to get a little momentum, isn't it, going into week one? But at the same time, you don't want anyone to get hurt, right?
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. And that's why, you're not going to see anybody really, I like to say, of consequence play in this game, right? So you're Derek Carr, Antonio Brown, anybody, Vontaze Burfict on the defensive side, anybody that's really a big-name guy, you're not going to see him play tonight. And, what's funny, a lot of teams sometimes even leave guys at home. So it's one of those games where you just kind of want to get through it. You want to see the young guys play. You want to make sure that they can leave a lasting impression both for the Raiders brass and really for anybody who might want to pick up one of these many guys that are going to get cut between the end of Thursday's games and then Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, the NFL is talking about cutting down the preseason to 2 games. I'm all for it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it would probably be ideal because really a lot of the time what you're getting now is you get teams that go and they just scrimmage other teams in controlled practice settings. And I think if you could do that and have that be maybe your other 2 preseason games where, you get everybody down to the stadium, you activate fan things, but it's still a controlled practice, then you actually would be seeing probably more players in those settings because that's where they really want to get that work done. You don't have to have a 60-minute game where it's kicking off
right,
and then you've got punt returns, and because those are the situations and scenarios where players get hurt. So, I think everybody would be all for cutting down the preseason into 2 games.
As long as those controlled practices, so to speak, were streamed so advertisers could, spend their money, that would be cool with the NFL, I'm sure. So who's the best rookie that you've seen so far between Josh Jacobs, Clelin Ferrell, and Jonathan Abram?
Oh, that's a good question. I think all 3 of them have a lot of promise and are going to be really key players throughout this season. Josh Jacobs, he is going to be the bell cow back, right? And we've seen in the last few years running backs come in and they get to 1,000 yards. I think that Josh Jacobs has that kind of potential. I think that is ideally what John Gruden would like to see him do. They want to see him come in there, run the ball first, second down, and really he can be effective in the pass game on third downs as well. But, you talk about Clelin Ferrell. He's somebody who they really are going to depend on the defensive line. Now, not necessarily for pass rushing, but just being a 3-down type of player where he is on the field on first and second downs and you see him affect the run game. And then maybe third downs he comes in and he's an interior pass rusher where you have somebody like Arden Key who can come in and rush from the outside there too. But Jonathan Abram, I think he's really exciting because he's one of those players where you really see him run around and he plays like his hair is on fire. So he's one of those guys where there's going to be a play in the middle of the field and the ball's going to go over the middle and he's going to come in and he's going to really hit somebody.
Yeah.
And that's his game. He's very physical. He likes to attack. So I think of all those guys, Jonathan Abram is probably going to be the one that gets people excited because he really is of that Raider mold, right, where you come in there, you're tenacious, you're nasty, and he's going to play really good defense.
He reminds me of Bob Sanders. Remember him for the Colts? Kind of that same headhunter mentality. So how is that? The Raiders made a big free agency signing, not Antonio Brown, but Trent Brown at left tackle. Yes. How is he progressing? Do you think he was worth the money? How do you think he'll do?
Well, no, he actually is going to be a right tackle. So they're going to have Colton Miller, who they drafted in the first round in 2018. They're keeping him at left tackle, and he was dealing with some injury issues last year. That's kind of why things went the way they went with him. But Trent Brown, he is one of those guys that he's a leader, and you can tell. I mean, just being there at training camp where he's on the field and he's staying after, he's doing things with the younger guys, trying to help them get better, both offensively and defensively. Because when you've been with the Patriots, you've won Super Bowls, you understand things on maybe a deeper level as to how you have to be successful in the National Football League. So I think he's a real stabilizing presence on that offensive line and really for the Raiders team as a whole.
And he is a absolute monster. He's like 6'9", 350 pounds.
Yeah, he's huge.
He's a big boy. If you're just joining us, it's Myles Simmons. He is a Raiders reporter for our very own Las Vegas Review-Journal. So, Myles, I'm sure you have had a chance to watch HBO Hard Knocks. I'm a big fan of the show. I'm going to be honest. I've been a little skeptical, and I've had some criticism for it this year. I don't think it has shown as much drama and as much, I guess, for lack of a better term, realness as past episodes. What are your thoughts so far on this season of HBO Hard Knocks with the Raiders?
I think it's good that they have John Gruden as a character, right? Because. And I think I saw a tweet, and I wish I could remember who tweeted this, but without John Gruden, what really would be the substance within the Hard Knocks show? And in a lot of ways, that's okay, right? What's interesting about Hard Knocks, and so I covered the Rams for 5 years, and the Rams did this show in 2016, and what I learned from that is that the team has ultimate control over what is shown, right? So you think about it from a team perspective, you don't necessarily want all your business out in the street.
Of course.
So what can you do? Well, you create this character, or maybe even a caricature, right, out of John Gruden. You can let people see John Gruden because he really is the face of the Raiders franchise, and that's what he was hired to do. That's what you want him to do, right? So in that way, it makes a lot of sense. Now, what I think has been kind of nice to see is somebody like Akeelan Doss, right? Like, he is somebody who Oakland fans, at least for now, can identify with because he is from the Oakland area. He's from Alameda, and they say it constantly over and over again. And what Hard Knocks doesn't always do a good job of is choosing somebody who actually has a chance to make the 53-man roster that they're sort of following around during August, right? And sometimes they make characters out of guys who have absolutely no shot. And this year, they did do a good job of choosing somebody who not only has a shot, but really might have a leg up in terms of making it onto that 53. So I always enjoy Hard Knocks just because I'm like a football fan, so I like seeing that kind of stuff. But, yeah, I can understand why, from a lot of perspectives, the season's like, it could be a little better.
Have you dealt with Mike Mayock at all? And
a little bit.
I think Mike Mayock is an absolute genius as a football mind. I love how they took him from being an analyst to actually giving him a general management position. How do you think that he'll draft? Right. I mean, it's unbelievable. How do you think he'll draft for the next few years?
Well, I think it's interesting because right now you have this foundation, right? And they talk about foundational pieces being like talent, character, and you have to be leaders and all these different things. So how Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Abram, and Clelin Ferrell do in this year and then the next couple of years, that's really going to be your foundational piece for what this team is going to look like in Las Vegas, right? You have to think about it from this way. There are not many players that are on the Raiders roster right now who are virtually guaranteed a spot when the team is in Las Vegas. You have those 3 first-round picks. They're about it. And maybe you can save some of the later draft picks as well, maybe 2nd, 4th round, et cetera. But if you watch those 3, and if those 3 can really get out there, compete, and win in their, whether it's, tackling, if you're Josh Jacobs, you want to run the ball well, you want to get in the end zone and score touchdowns. If you see those guys play well, then I think that gives you hope as a Raiders fan for what things can turn into down the road. Because who knows really what it's going to look like? I mean, you have John Gruden with this 10-year contract, right? You know he's going to be there.
Right.
But from somebody who is Mike Mayock, and I think all of us know what Mike Mayock was doing for NFL Network, and he did a tremendous job with that. It's different when you're behind the scenes and you are actually selecting players for a team. Yeah. And you're actually trying to implement a vision of what a football team should be. So I don't know. I think the jury is definitely still out, and we'll see. But, I mean, it seems to be off to a good start.
So, Myles, is anybody on the team, I would imagine, your job at the Las Vegas Review-Journal, at times you're asking questions about Las Vegas. Obviously, that's not really what they want to talk about now. They have a season to play, and they're focused on that, which I totally understand. But is anybody in these media scrums, before practice, after practice, before these preseason games, after these games, talking at all about Las Vegas at all? I mean, does that ever come up in the conversation?
It really has not come up very much, and I think part of it is just that, what you're saying right now. I mean, they're still in Oakland. They still have a season to play in Oakland, and I think if you talk to maybe some of the higher-level folks, yeah, they're certainly thinking about, okay, how are we going to open our practice facility? What do we need in order to make sure that when we're there, everything is turnkey, right? The players are going to have their locker room, right? The players are going to be able to come in and sit down and know where they need to go. But I think those things are all on a very high level, because if you talk to John Gruden right now, he knows he's got to construct the 53-man roster. Second, his priority right now is defeating the Denver Broncos September 9th on Monday Night Football.
Sure.
So it's interesting. I think depending on the way this season goes, if the Raiders are clearly out of contention by mid-November or maybe even early November, I think the conversation will definitely start to change, because from a lot of standpoints, right? Like, you're going to have people in the Bay Area probably not cover the team as much as they would otherwise, because why should they, right? This team is going elsewhere. Now, for my perspective and for, the people I work with at the Review Journal, it's going to be totally different, because then the conversation will certainly be, all right, well, when this team goes to Vegas then in 2020, how different is it going to be from this team that is mediocre to bad right now, right? So I think right now that's just not really where they are, because everybody's undefeated. We're still in the preseason. But, heck, when we get to November, if we talk again, then things may certainly be different.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that a 6 to 8 win season is fine. It's all about getting better once you're in Vegas. The Raiders have no love for Oakland right now, and the city of Oakland has no love for them, and that's very clear at this point. As far as the Antonio Brown helmet saga goes, I don't understand. I want to get your take on this, but I'm thinking that the reason that he is so adamant about wearing this helmet is there's got to be some type of superstition involved, because the helmet is actually going to help him and protect him from getting CTE. What's your take on why Antonio Brown is so adamant about wearing this helmet?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I guess the latest is that, since he lost his second helmet grievance, he's going to choose a new helmet, and Drew Rosenhaus, Antonio Brown's agent, has come out and said that he's going to get some endorsement deal from whatever helmet manufacturer he chooses. And you know what? Great.
Which is very interesting.
And, you can never, you can never begrudge a player for making money. But I think the biggest thing with this helmet, and I don't necessarily know why it's become this huge deal. I mean, they've known that this would be a thing for a long time, and I guess they figured they had a loophole, and then there was no loophole with finding a helmet that had been manufactured within the last 10 years. Drew Rosenhaus keeps saying that it's about Antonio Brown's sight, and that he wants to be able to see guys that are coming from whatever direction, and it's the helmet that he's used for all of his career. And to an extent, I understand that, right? Like, I don't think if I use a certain pen, right? I use Bic Atlantis pens. I have one in my hand right now. I love this pen. I would not necessarily want to switch to another pen as a journalist if I have to write articles and write notes, right? But I also understand that, like, if I were getting paid millions of dollars and somebody told me, hey, you can't use that pen.
It's time for a new pen.
Another pen. I'm going to get another pen.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Right? So, like, it makes sense in some ways, and it just doesn't make sense in other ways, especially because, as you were saying, right, like, it's about safety. You don't want to get CTE. So I don't know, man. I'm tired of writing about it. I'm tired of talking about it. I know John Gruden is too.
Right.
Well, that's why I saved it for last, Myles.
Very fair.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Very fair. So, Myles,
hopefully we're done with this.
Absolutely. I hope so, too. So, Myles, before we let you go, I know that you're fairly new at the RJ, correct?
I am. My first day was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
my head's been spinning all August.
But you're not new to covering the NFL, as you mentioned. So I want to give some people that get the RJ, that read your articles. And by the way, you do a fantastic job, and we look forward to having you on the rest of the year. It would be fantastic. Can you give some of the listeners just a little rundown on your career, what you've done before you got here to Las Vegas?
For sure. So I covered the Los Angeles Rams. For the Los Angeles Rams, I was technically called their team insider. So I started working for them in 2014 when they were still in St. Louis. And so, as I had sort of alluded to, I followed the team through the move. And so I've been working for them. Yeah, like I said, for the last 5 years, I was doing videos, podcasts, writing things. And so now I am a real Big J journalist.
That's awesome.
Like to say.
What do you think of Las Vegas? You haven't been here very long. What do you think of it?
I have not. So I technically am still based in Oakland. So this is the crazy thing about my life, right? So, and this is maybe too inside baseball, but I'll say it anyway. I drove up the state of California 3 times in a week, moving my things from Los Angeles to Oakland and putting it in a storage unit. And so now I have this temporary situation. I've got a roommate. It's great. And so I'll be doing that for the next 6 months or through the season, whatever it is. And then when the Raiders move to Vegas, I will move to Vegas. So
cool.
Well, like I said, it's been a whirlwind of a month. My last day covering the Rams was their preseason game against the Raiders. So then I drove up, again, as I said, the state of California on that Sunday. Monday, I started working for the RJ covering the Raiders.
Listen, don't get me wrong. I like San Francisco, which is very close, obviously, to where you are. I'm not the biggest fan of Oakland in general. I like Las Vegas. I want to stay here. I'm very curious to ask you next year when you move to Las Vegas the similarities and differences. But I like it here in Las Vegas, and I have a feeling you're going to like it better as well.
Brian thinks Oakland's dangerous.
I think so too. It's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper, man.
That's for sure. Better chance of
and less homeless people pooping in the street.
Yeah, and better chance of maybe running into a gang member in Oakland than in Las Vegas as well. But hey, we'll leave that. That's another topic for another show. But hey, Myles, I really appreciate you coming on. We really look forward to. Hopefully, we can have you on every week as a guest because I think you're a great guest and your insight is fantastic, my man. Enjoy the game tonight. We appreciate it, and hopefully, we can catch up with you again before September 9th.
Heck yeah, I'm in, guys. Just let me know when.
Thanks, Myles.
Perfect.
I appreciate your time, my friend. Thank you. There you go. That's Myles Simmons. Brand new at the RJ, the Review Journal. He's only been out there for 3 weeks. He's still in Oakland. He's not coming out here, which makes sense. Why would you have a guy live in Las Vegas when he's a beat writer for still the Oakland Raiders? So obviously that makes sense. Of course he's going to be out there. But really cool stuff. So we appreciate Myles' his time, and we really look forward to having him on a weekly basis, previewing these games. Monday Night Football, September 9th. That's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that one. So before we switch topics, JD, how many games do you think the Raiders win this year?
I've said 6 to 8 for a while. With injuries, let's say Carr goes down, say someone big goes down, say Brown just has a total meltdown, which at this point I don't think is unreasonable to assume. I could see 3 to 5 wins. It doesn't make a difference. The point is they're moving. And if they have a top 10 or top 5 pick, it's better for them long term.
Do you think Carr is capable?
And they got so many picks out of the Khalil Mack deal.
Do you think Derek Carr is a capable quarterback who could get this team to a Super Bowl?
I know he's a capable quarterback. I don't think he has the stature to withstand the hits that you take in the NFL. He's very, very top of it. He's got big, powerful arms. You need a strong base to withstand hits in the NFL. He does not have that base.
So is he good enough to make it to a Super Bowl?
With the right team around him, it is possible, but I don't think that he's a superstar. He was a second-round pick for a reason.
Do they make the playoffs this year?
Absolutely not.
No chance?
Obviously there's a chance. If it's perfect and another team in their division has injuries and they don't, that could happen. But I don't think that they will. I would take a bet if I had to put odds on it, and I'm sure that's what the odds are now at Westgate, probably plus 300 to make the playoffs right now.
Really? Do you think the organization made a mistake in signing John Gruden to a 10-year deal?
Of course not. He's got great charisma. Everybody knows who he is, and it's a long-term move. And he's a proven coach. He's made several Super Bowls.
By year 5, if he doesn't make it to the playoffs, do you let him go?
I think you have to.
But you don't think that'll happen?
I do not believe. No, free agency is going to explode now that they're in Las Vegas.
When they do come to Vegas next year, would you say the expectation should be high right from the get-go? Because listen, with the Las Vegas Golden Knights, there were zero expectations. There was no pressure on this team, and then the October 1 tragedy happened, and it just seemed like the whole city rallied around the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And I'm not saying the city is not going to rally around the Oakland Raiders, but what I am saying is that it's a completely different scenario. Like I said, there were no expectations with the Las Vegas Golden Knights when they started in year 1, and we all know what happened there. They made it to the finals of the Stanley Cup. It was an unbelievable season, and I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. Well, and by the way, that season's right around the corner, the NHL season. But with the Raiders, you understand what I'm saying. It's different.
Wait, and you just got a credential today, right?
Yeah, what does that have to do with it?
So we'll be attending a lot of the games this year.
Well, I will. I don't know if you will.
Oh, I will be absolutely attending those games.
You have a family. I have no responsibility.
I will be absolutely attending those games, but I'll be eating all those gummy bears and drinking all that soda just like everybody else.
Okay, fair enough. But and again, nobody knows what you're talking about when you say gummy bears and soda. They give members of the media free food.
They give members not really free food, free candy and free snacks. They like us being high on sugar because we're so enthusiastic.
And that would explain why myself and JD are certainly not going to be on the front of Fitness Magazine anytime soon. We're going to take a quick break.
Although I am losing weight.
Bernie Fratto, nationally syndicated host over there at Fox Sports, going to be joining us next, and he does a fantastic job covering the UNLV Rebels and on a national scale. We'll get some gambling tips from him and, of course, J.D. Sharp when we come back. We'll take a quick break, be back right after this. You are listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.